In Japanese mythology, a Jorogamo was a deadly hybrid creature that could transform from a spider into a beautiful woman to seduce victims to their death. The story goes that when a Jorogamo spider, a common species found in Japan, reached 400 years, it gained the power to shapeshift and developed an appetite for human flesh. Disguised as beautiful women, the Jorogamo were able to enchant and lure men into their web of lies. Their webs were constructed of silk thread so robust that, once trapped, no man could possibly escape. The Jorogamo would then administer their lethal venom, gradually weakening their victim, to savor their prey as long as possible. A slow and painful demise for their sorry victim. Gasadakuro are gigantic skeletal mythological creatures amalgamated from the bones of human skeletons. In situations of mass death, such as famines or wars, individuals could not receive proper funeral rites and thus were unable to move on after death. As their bodies decayed, their souls became twisted with wrath and resentment towards the living. Their souls and bones merged into one enormous being called a Gasadakuro, translated as the starving skeleton. Terrifyingly silent, aside from the unnerving chattering of their teeth, these mythological creatures skulked around deep in the night, looking for their prey. Finding their victim, they decapitated them and drank their blood. A Gasadakuro would continue terrorizing the night until the resentment of every soul, residing within the creature had dwindled, no longer animating the skeletal monster. Penanggalan, the Malay disembodied vampire. Penanggalan are infamous mythological creatures known by different names throughout Southeast Asia. In Malay myth, a Penanggalan was once a mortal woman who performed witchcraft and black magic. A popular version of the myth states that one woman agreed to become vegetarian for 40 days in exchange for youthful beauty. Ultimately, she broke her pact and was cursed to become a flesh-eating Penanggalan. During the day, she resembled an ordinary woman, but at night her head would detach from her body, floating around with her trailing entrails. This disembodied figure flew around searching for sustenance in the form of pregnant women and infants, draining them of their blood. Those fed on by this vampiric creature ended up contracting a fatal disease. Returning to her abode, a Penanggalan would soak herself in vinegar to shrink her organs back into her body. A Penanggalan, therefore, could be recognized during the day by this telltale smell of vinegar. Lamishto, the Mesopotamian mother of demons. The demon goddess of Mesopotamian mythology, Lamishto, was a hellish hybrid creature usually depicted as pregnant, covered with thick hair and 2 skulls over her breasts, a snake's tail, large wings, 3 eyes, and taloned feet. The head of this beast was said to be either a jackal, lioness, snake, or hawk, depending on the source. Lamishto was known to enact destruction by polluting nature and water, spreading disease, causing nightmares as well as drinking the blood and devouring the flesh of men. She is said to Typhon, the Greek monster of monsters. In Greek mythology, Typhon was regarded as the fiercest, deadliest, and biggest of giants, monsters, and gods. It is generally considered that Typhon possessed the upper body of a man, hundreds of snakes comprised his bottom half, his eyes gleamed red with fire, and wings sprouted from his back. Descriptions of Typhon do vary, but it is largely understood that he was an immeasurably colossal being with numerous wings, heads, hands, and snakes. According to Hesiod, this monstrous creation of Gaia and Tartarus attempted to overthrow Zeus and rule over the heavens. Unsuccessful in this attempt, Zeus conquered Typhon with 100 lightning bolts and imprisoned him within the pits of Tartarus. Indeed, Typhon is said to have been buried under Mount Etna, his constant rage resulting in any volcanic activity. The most terrifying monster in Greek mythology, Typhon was also said to father other infamous Greek monsters such as Cerberus, the Hydra, and the Chimera. Banshee, terrifying Irish mythological creatures. One of the more infamous mythological creatures on this list, the Banshee, was a female spirit or fairy known to be the harbinger of death in Irish folklore. Depending on the version of the myth, she is either described as a hauntingly striking beauty or an ancient crone. She is said to have long white hair, a grey cloak, and eyes permanently red from her tears. This mythological creature was known to be a foreteller of death to those who laid their eyes on her, through her piercing scream. Indeed, the most terrifying quality of the Banshee was her painfully disturbing wail. Their scream was so blood-curdling that it was said to affect a person's mind and could be heard from a great distance.